relentlessly sharpen your mind, to forge unshakable discipline, to transform into someone who doesn't merely survive betrayal and isolation, but thrives precisely because of it. Because in this brutal, unpredictable game of power, there is only one absolute guarantee. The man who walks alone, walks faster. The masterpiece of trust. You've journeyed through the shadowed corridors of power with Machiavelli as your guide. You've learned that loyalty is often a deceptive mask worn by betrayal, that kindness can be a strategic weapon, and that in the relentless game of influence, you must ultimately expect to stand alone. But this is not a narrative of despair or hopelessness. It is, fundamentally, a manual for sovereignty. At the core of Machiavelli's profound philosophy lies one final, indispensable insight. Trust is power. But it must be wielded with the precision of a double-edged sword. To not merely survive, but to truly flourish, you must learn not only to discern who genuinely merits your trust, but also to fiercely protect yourself from its inherent dangers. Trust without strategy is weakness. Trust without self-preservation is surrender. Be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves, Machiavelli sagely advised. This is your profound call to mastery, to see beyond deceptive appearances, to anticipate potential treachery, and yet still engage with the world with unwavering strength and resolute purpose. Trust, reckless leap into the abyss. It is a precisely calculated offering. Ask yourself, with ruthless honesty, themselves. Who is truly dependable? Whose fundamental interests genuinely align with yours in ways far deeper than mere convenience? Who remains unwavering, a steady beacon, when the inevitable storms of life rage? These are the precious few who truly deserve your trust. But even then, you hold it guarded, like a rare, invaluable treasure. For trust, once irrevocably shattered, is almost impossible to truly reclaim. Simultaneously, self-preservation must be your unyielding, paramount priority. Your mind. Your reputation. Your influence. These are your sacred kingdom. They must be shielded with an unparalleled fierceness. You do not foolishly reveal your innermost plans to everyone. You do not carelessly expose your vulnerabilities. Every casual confession, every thought recklessly unveiled, is, in the hands of an adversary, potent ammunition. And yet, power inherently demands balance. Ever felt a cold whisper in your gut, a primal unease despite a warm smile? They shake your hand, call you, brother, cheer your wins, until their own success feels threatened. Then, the knife appears, subtly, invisibly. We call it paranoia. Machiavelli called it wisdom. The dangerous myth of goodness. We're fed a comforting lie: people are inherently good, friendships are unbreakable, loyalty breeds loyalty. But that's not how the ruthless dance of power works. It's not how human nature truly operates. Niccolò Machiavelli, a figure both feared and misunderstood, dared to strip away the polite veneer and reveal an uncomfortable truth. Kindness is often a tactic, loyalty is a fleeting rental, and in the grand game of power, no one is truly your friend. The economy of relationships. Look around you. Every bond, every alliance, every shared laugh, it's rarely built on selfless affection. It's built on leverage. Even intimacy has its price, its quiet calculation. People align with you because you serve a purpose in their world, emotional, financial, social, psychological. The instant that utility expires, the illusion shatters, and you're left staring at the raw, unvarnished truth. This isn't cynicism, it's liberation. Once you grasp this, deeply, intrinsically, you stop being a fool. You stop spilling your heart for those who wouldn't offer a band-aid. You stop investing in fantasies and start playing the game like a strategist, not a pawn. You might feel isolated, but that loneliness is clarity. And in that searing clarity, a new kind of power awakens, one that needs no external validation, sees through every mask, and walks its path with unshakable vision. If you've ever felt the searing sting of betrayal, wondered why people turn glacial the moment you ascend, or question the very nature of your closest ties, then this isn't just for you. It's about you. Because what Machiavelli knew, and what so few dare to confront, is that the genesis of true power begins with one terrifying, yet liberating, realization: no one is your friend. And that, surprisingly, is your greatest advantage. Loyalty, the transactional truth. We're spoon-fed romantic notions of loyalty: good people are loyal, real friends stick around through thick and thin, commitment is a virtue. Machiavelli, however, saw a different reality. He understood that loyalty is never unconditional, it's transactional, temporary, contingent upon power, fear, or benefit. He cautioned rulers against trusting the affection of their subjects or the allegiance of their allies. Why? Because people are loyal to their needs, not to you. And when those needs shift, so too will their devotion. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. This isn't just a maxim for monarchs. It applies to every relationship you've ever held dear. Recall those you trusted implicitly, friends sworn to be there forever, colleagues who lauded your work when you were equals, lovers who once couldn't conceive of life without you. How many vanished when your circumstances changed? How many fell silent when you needed them most? We construct elaborate narratives to soften this blow: they're just busy. They're going through something. They didn't mean to hurt me. But the truth rarely offers such gentle excuses. People gravitate towards what benefits them. And when your presence no longer fuels their ego, status, or security, they drift away. Machiavelli didn't despise humanity, he simply refused to sugarcoat its reality. He observed the court of Florence not as a bastion of honor, but as a masquerade where nobles shyly plotting each other's downfall. And here's the unsettling part. The more powerful you become, the more smiles you attract, and the more hidden daggers. This dynamic hasn't changed in the modern world. Loyalty often wears the disguise of friendship. But look closer: does this person stand with you because they believe in your essence, or because they derive safety, status, or support from your approval? If your influence evaporated tomorrow, would their phone still ring? This isn't meant to embitter you. Once you recognize loyalty as a strategy, not an inherent virtue, you cease to be manipulated by it. You stop mistaking convenience for true character. And you begin to observe people with radically different eyes. You stop asking, "Why did they abandon me?" and instead, you ask, "Why was I useful to them?" This is the bedrock of Machiavellian self-defense: detach from the illusion that people are loyal to you. They are loyal to their perception of nations, their self-interest. And when that illusion no longer serves them, your bond will, inevitably, dissolve. The path forward: strategic detachment. So, what action do you take? You cease trading your loyalty for validation. You stop sacrificing yourself for those who view you merely as an asset. You build alliances, not fragile attachments. You lead with value, not desperate dependence. Machiavelli understood that a wise individual moves through life like a grandmaster on a chessboard, not emotionally reactive, but relentlessly strategic. He doesn't hate the opposing pieces, he simply comprehends their function. And so should you. This doesn't demand the community. It demands the removal of the blindfold, seeing people as they truly are, not as you desperately wish them to be. With manipulation, the rarest form of power isn't deception. It's clarity. Betrayal, human nature under pressure. Have you noticed how quickly allegiances shift in the crucible of crisis? A misspoken word, a misinterpreted post, a subtle dip in status, and suddenly, those who once lauded you are gone, silent, or, chillingly, arrayed against you. This isn't necessarily betrayal. This is human nature under pressure. Machiavelli famously advised rulers to maintain power not through love, but through why? Because he knew fear is infinitely more predictable than affection. Fear, unlike fleeting adoration, often remains loyal even when love has withered and died. In stark terms, people are more reliable when they need something from you than when they like you. It's a harsh truth. But it's profoundly liberating. Once you internalize this, you stop bleeding for fair-weather companions. You stop exhaustively explaining yourself to those determined to misunderstand you. Most importantly, you stop being shocked when loyalty evaporates the instant you cease to be advantageous. You begin to move like a tactician, kind, but never naive, open, but never blind, generous, but never exploitable. This is the first law of Machiavellian power: don't depend on loyalty. Understand its inherent expiration date. No one is your friend, not in the idealized way you might hope. But once you accept this, truly, deeply accept it, you gain the most formidable advantage of all: independence from illusions. Kindness, a double-edged sword. We're raised to believe kindness is an intrinsic virtue, a universal good, that being gentle, accommodating, and agreeable will open every door and earn every ounce of respect. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood that kindness, when not wielded strategically, is frequently mistaken for weakness. He recognized that in the theater of power, niceness isn't admired, it's exploited. This isn't a call to cruelty. It's a stark warning: if your goodness your leash. We've all witnessed this narrative unfold. The person who constantly bends backward to please others, always agreeable, perpetually saying yes. They believe they're embodying nobility, earning adoration. But beneath the surface, a different dynamic takes hold. People begin to perceive them as harmless, predictable, replaceable. They start to expect compliance. They relentlessly test boundaries. They scoff at silence. And the harder they try to please, the more invisible they become. Machiavelli would identify this as a fatal flaw, because it willingly surrenders your power to those who care least about your well-being. When you lead with niceness, hoping it will protect you, you become a tool. A stepping stone. A phantom people forget once they've extracted what they needed. Unshakable sense of inner strength, you command attention, respect, even a healthy dose of fear. Machiavelli argued that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Not because fear is inherently virtuous, but because fear establishes distance. It breeds respect. It creates impenetrable boundaries. Love, on the other hand, often invites exploitation, especially in a world where most individuals think in terms of advantage, not abstract virtue. And here's the chilling truth: people frequently misinterpret kindness as naivety. They perceive softness as submission. And unless you master the delicate balance of empathy with authority, they will inevitably walk over you, and then resent you when you finally stand your ground. Escaping the niceness trap. So, how do you break free from this insidious trap? Machiavelli termed appearance: to be kind when it serves your purpose, cold when it shields you, generous when it fortifies your position, and ruthless when your very survival demands it. This isn't about living a disingenuous life. It's about recognizing that in a world teeming with opportunists, absolute transparency is a dangerous liability. The person who bears their soul to everyone ends up betrayed. The person who exposes their entire strategy gets sabotaged. The person who pleads for approval never truly earns it. Niceness without strategy is a lamb wandering into a wolf's den. Why does kindness so often attract abuse? Because many individuals are constantly testing the boundaries of every person they encounter, consciously or subconsciously. They push. They prod. They press, relentlessly searching for where the line is drawn. And if you never draw that line, they conclude that no such boundary exists. They won't vocalize it, but internally, the thought forms: this person won't stop me. This person fears confrontation. I can take more. And they will. Not because they are inherently evil, but because people respond to what you tolerate. If you permit someone to interrupt you, they will continue. If you perpetually give more than you receive, they will come to expect it. If you never utter the word no, you are not seen as generous, you are seen as weak. Niceness becomes a self-imposed cage. Machiavelli's strategic kindness. So, what would Machiavelli advise? He would tell you to cherish your kindness, but to weaponize it. Let default. Offer your generosity only to those who genuinely respect the value of your gift. Speak softly, but understand when to deploy silence. Assist others, but never at the expense of your own dignity. And most importantly, be unpredictable. It was one of the most powerful forms of protection. When people cannot anticipate your response, when they are uncertain whether your smile conceals steel, they tread carefully. They respect your personal space. But if your response is always passive, you become a script they've already memorized, a puppet whose strings they can effortlessly manipulate. There's a dangerous myth that equates being feared with being evil, that strength and kindness are mutually exclusive. But that is a fabrication spun by those who dread losing control over you. True power resides in embodying both, a person capable of profound kindness, yet unafraid to inspire awe and even fear. A person who leads with compassion but never bows for scraps. A person who smiles, but not for the purpose of being liked. This is how you break free from the niceness trap, not by becoming cruel, but by becoming sovereign. So remember this. Your kindness should be a gift, not an obligation. Your empathy should be chosen, not expected. And your approval should be earned, never assumed. Because when kindness is inextricably paired with strength, it becomes divine. But when kindness is all you are, it becomes your prison. The inevitability of